Good evening. Welcome to a special call and our special guest, Smriti Goswami. And the call is about, do you hear your own voice? So, do you hear your own voice? And I would straight away, without much ado, I would share the stage with Smriti. And as I know, Smriti is an Access certified facilitator, a Joy of Business certified facilitator, and a Right Voice for You facilitator. And I have attended her classes. In fact, I did my CF training while I was in her class. So all day I would attend her class, and at night I would attend the CF training. So she's been, a hand in my support system when I was aspiring for CF. How does it get any better than this? So welcome, Smriti, and over to you. It would be a question and answer session, as well as primarily about the topic which just came to your mind, to my mind. Do you hear your own voice?
All
Yes,
right.
Smriti.
Thank you so much for the beautiful introduction, Keith. And I'm also a Talk to the Entities certified facilitator and also being you certified facilitator, apart from what all Keith mentioned. So welcome everyone. And I'm so looking forward to this call. And there was an energy about when I was having a conversation with Keith and he invited me to Goa to conduct the Right Voice for You class. And we were like, okay, let's create some calls on different topics. And then this topic came up. And there was some energy about this class, about these calls also. And we thought, let's just put it out there and see whichever way it will contribute to each one of you. Do you hear your voice? When you think about that, there's lots of stuff that comes up in everybody's mind and their world. In my case, the thing that I would actually like to talk about is, where do you stop yourself because you have a whole lot of judgments about yourself, or where you're not willing to put your voice out there, you're not willing to allow yourself to be present or show up in the world because somewhere there's something holding you back. So we'll talk about a lot of things. There'll be a lot of question answers. There'll be a lot of, you feel free to ask me questions. But primarily from this call, what I would actually like to invite you, each one of you to, is a space where you choose to be unstoppable, where you start, you start picking up or being aware of where are those places where you're actually stopping yourself from speaking up, or you keep holding yourself back, and what's the value of that. So let's get started with
Yes,
that
Smriti,
first.
I actually came across some content and I read it somewhere and I mixed and worked on that. And it was totally around voice. It was like I was talking to you and that content just opened up from somewhere. Let me read out these 5, 6 lines,
All right.
and they are so related.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Let me tell you, let me tell you about a voice. Not this voice, but the one inside, the one that whispers. It tells you what's right, what's not, when to leave, and where to go. It's not rocket science. It's just what you feel light and what's heavy. It gives you straight answers. Tell me who to be with when it's a yay and when it's a no. Whether the person I met is worth spending life with or not. The voice is clear, but are you willing to go beyond what's filled in your head? Beyond right, wrong, good, and bad. And a lot of times, it's merely a whisper. Don't let it drown in your noisy head, because in the end, no man, women, or algorithm of artificial intelligence knows what's right for you. Always trust your knowing. Everyone has one. Do you listen to?
So beautiful, yeah. And that's actually the essence of this particular call. Literally, you've described it so beautifully. Um, how many times we keep stopping ourselves from showing up, from speaking up, from letting other people know where they're hurting us. We just keep, we, it's not just that, we also stop demanding from our own, from people closest to us also, because somewhere we've decided that we are not being received. So every time you're holding back your voice, every time you're not willing to hear your own voice, how much are you holding yourself back, and for whom? So how many of you, from the time you were very little kids, learned to find the tiniest little crack where you wouldn't impose on anybody, you wouldn't impinge on anybody else, you wouldn't impel a different reality in their world, and you wouldn't harass them with your very being? How many of you learned to do that? And everywhere you chose to do that, will you now destroy and uncreate that?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good, bad, hot, popcorn, and short voice, povats, and beyonds. What I just used was the access clearing statement, and you can, what it does is it goes back to that point in time when that issue got created, and it literally blasts it out of your system. And this, it's been explained very beautifully by Dr. Dane here in, what is that website?
The clearingstatement.com.
The clearingstatement.com. So it's like, you know, it's basically what you're working on, those little points of creations when you created a space where you don't impose yourself on anybody else. And recently, when I was attending the Right Voice for You class, and the facilitator there spoke something about imposing, and I was like, but I always thought imposing meant that you're just being aggressively there in that person's space, and that person might not like it. But what he said was, when you're imposing, it's more about you're willing to show up with the gift of you. You're willing to give the world the gift of you by actually choosing to show up more dynamically. So that, you know, there are times, say, for example, in your childhood, there might have been a moment where, suppose you've gone to a fair and like a mela, and you must have, as a child, you might have asked your parents, like, can you buy this balloon for me? And they might have been caught up with something, and they would have said, hold on, we'll buy it later, like, don't trouble us right now, or something, whatever. They might have just dismissed you. And about an hour later, your brother or sibling comes across, and he or she just says, can you buy me balloon? And your parents at that moment might have resolved whatever issue they were facing, and they might have just said, okay, let's buy the balloons for both the kids. But somewhere as a child, you would have realized and you would have decided that, you know, my voice does not really count, because when I asked for it, my parents didn't give me. But when my sibling asked for it, he or she got it. I also got it, but because he asked, because my sibling asked, right? So that is the point of creation, when you decided that maybe you don't hold much value, or you don't have the right to make that demand. So that's why, let me repeat this again. How many of you from the time you were little kids learned to fill the tiniest little crack where your space wouldn't impose on anybody else, wouldn't impinge on anybody else, and wouldn't impel a different reality in their world, and wouldn't harass them with your very being? These lines, when I read this for the first time, I was like, my God, how much a lot of us learn to live like this, where we will not even be willing to show up or speak up or even make a demand, because maybe we're not worth it, or we don't want to trouble anybody. Okay. So what we need to actually look at is that, how have I been relating to other people's realities to create my reality of receiving, and my reality of being that isn't actually my reality? When you start looking at what others want, it's very easy for us to know what others want, right? Because we are like psychic sponges. We just know what's going on for others. So we are very psychically aware. So we keep focusing on fulfilling their needs, and we tend to forget that even we require something, or what can we be and demand. So most of us would be like, oh, it's okay, it's only me, I'm not important enough, it's okay. So when somebody is being a different energy with you, say for example, they might be mean and nasty, you'll be like, it's okay, it's only me, I can take it. Maybe they didn't realize. Maybe they might have had a tough day at work, or whatever. So we'll look for an excuse. But every time you are actually negating what you're feeling at that moment, that's where you are stopping or holding back your own voice. So is that even creating for you? And how many of you have learned to do that? And what is it even creating in your world? So everything that brought up, let's destroy and uncreate it all.
Yes.
Right from good, bad, pot, all natural boys, poets, and beyonds. So you have to be willing to acknowledge how phenomenal you are, how which actually, but instead of that, we tend to keep on looking at, we keep making mediocre choices so that we fit in with others. But most of the time, we also subdue our voice because we're looking at fitting in with people. Because if you're being too much, then you'll be like that tall poppy who gets cut all the time. So how many of you prefer just fitting in, to be insignificant, to just, I'll be just in one corner of the room and nobody will notice me and everything will be fine? How many of you actually, when you walk into a room, perceive what's going on, perceive the insecurities of other people, and just narrow yourself, like you make yourself lesser and lesser and lesser to fit in with them?
Turn your shine down.
Yeah, you turn your shine down, you dim your shine, and you just make yourself small enough to fit in with them so that they don't feel insecure with your presence. How many of you are doing that? And is that even working for you? Be very present to all those places and those times when you've actually subdued your voice, you've muted your voice, you've just dismissed all that you've been going through, all the things that you've been feeling at that moment, and for whom. So it's also about not being willing to hurt someone, or not being willing to make choices that will be a huge contribution to you because somebody else might not like it. So most of your life, you end up living based on that. And that does not really create much for you. So yeah, does anyone have any questions? Geet, if you have any questions,
Yes,
just go
I
ahead
do
and ask
have.
me.
I do have lots, a
Yeah.
lot of
Go ahead.
energy showed up.
Yeah.
Smriti, one word was again and again coming up. What is this sacrifice about? Are we taught sacrifice so that we subdue ourselves, turn our shine down, or dim our shine? Is being a sacrificial goat ingrained in us so that we do that?
It's not necessarily about sacrificing. It's about being nice. It's about not, it's about perceiving other person's insecurity and not disrupting that. You're not really sacrificing here, but you're just being, you're not also not willing to be too much there, because you perceive what's going on for the other person. So you're just trying to not ruffle feathers, let me put it that way.
Yeah. Got it.
It's more about not choosing to ruffle feathers.
So that also reminds me, sometimes I talk in a money series about this, when people talk about fitting into the reality. We always surround ourselves with people we are comfortable with. So when it comes to money, so if you take the rate everybody on a scale of 1 to 10, everybody on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of how rich they are, or how financially aware they are, or how happy they are, 10 people who we spend most time with, when you find out the average, that average is yours.
Yeah.
So somewhere you are trying to snuggle in and fit in so that you are somewhere in the average. And that is why your financial reality tend not to change.
Because you're not willing to get out of your comfort zone. And also, sometimes we tend to make people who are earning more than us, or people who are actually very well-to-do, we look at them and we tend to make them greater than us. So we will shy away from stepping into that space. We'll be like, it's okay. Also, how many of us actually have a lot of judgment about people who are very, very rich, who have a lot of money? They have a lot of, that they're mean, they'll be nasty and stuff. So pock and pod, all those points of views, all those judgments that come up, And yes, we do tend to keep going back to our comfort zone. So what choices have you made in your life that is creating and maintaining you being constantly in your comfort zone? And is that even creating for you? So be very present to that, see what exactly is required, and what are the choices. So a good question to ask, usually I ask this question very often: what choices can I make today that my future self will thank me for? So when you start asking questions like that, it starts inviting you to that space where, most of us are very aware of a kind of future we'd like, even though we cannot sort of define it, but you're energetically aware of what you'd actually like to create in the world. So when you ask a question like this, and anything that matches that, the energy of all that you're aware of that you'd like to create in your life, you start stepping into it. You start inviting those energies into your space. So that's what it's all about, where you can actually start choosing to get out of your comfort zone and creating more. Now, when you're talking about, how many of you actually look into someone's world to see what they need, or to make sure you're not going to upset them, or to make sure whatever you're going to choose should work for them, without actually really even considering yourself? Like, how many times do you even truly consider yourself in your choices? You don't. You just make choices based on how somebody else will react to it, whether it's your friend or it's your family members or it's your siblings, or even if it's your spouse, right? Or your partner. So you start looking at that. And Pragya, just give me a minute. So it's like, I remember a few years ago, somebody asked me, like, so, okay, but what do you like? And I realized, like, I wasn't even truly willing to look at what I would like. I was mostly working with whatever elements I thought that were just the way that they were and how they would work with all the people that are involved in it. Okay. So again, what changed? So I realized that, and I made a decision to change that. And so how do you start changing things? When once you're aware, you have a choice to change. So I started asking this question: if I were including me in my choices, what would I truly like to choose? If I was truly creating my life from the joy of it, from the fun of it, what would I choose? And that's what started opening up more spaces. And then, those of you who've done the foundation class, there is this thing about 5 elements of intimacy, which are honor, trust, vulnerability, allowance, and gratitude. When you choose to have these 5 elements of intimacy with yourself, that's when you start being so present with what exactly is going on for you. And when you choose to have, what if you could actually choose to have the true intimacy with yourself? Because when you are, it's like, you look at other people and you say, okay, nobody loves me. But how much do you love yourself? How much do you keep discounting yourself? How much do you keep sidelining you? And then you wonder why everybody else is sidelining me. So that's what I'm trying to invite you to. When you choose to have the 5 elements of intimacy with yourself, I will not go into detail about what that is. That's part of the foundation class, which you can attend one of those classes and know more in detail about it. But this is more about being present and choosing to have each of these elements in your space and start creating your life from that. When you have the 5 elements of intimacy with yourself, it's more from where you're functioning from the wealth of your being. And that also is one of the major major tool for creating money in your life. Yes, Pragya, go ahead.
So when you say that we
Can you be a little louder?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So when you say that we need to look at our creations and the energy where it pings us, and we should go ahead, do that, be aware of that. Sometimes I have no clue where that pings me, or no matter how many energy polls or clearings I do regarding that. Example, for a job or a place that I want to stay, or just anything for a class. most of the time I end up being confused about it. I
So
can't seem to make the right and wrong or the light and heavy for it. So how what question can I ask you? What tool can I use
you can
to
choose,
get
yeah,
it?
that's one question that you can ask. You can also choose to live with that choice for 3 days, live with having that choice and living that choice. And from the fourth, fifth, and sixth day, you choose not to have that choice and see what was lighter, what expanded your world more. That will give you an energetic awareness of what exactly is there. If living and choosing that particular choice was expanding your world, like you just felt happy and good and cheerful all the time, then that's what it is for you. But if you were getting irritable and getting worked up and there was this heaviness, like a heavy weight on your shoulders, then maybe that choice was not for you. Or if you were not feeling anything, but when you chose not to have that choice, the fourth, fifth, and sixth days, if it was feeling like there's something missing in your life, then maybe the first choice was better for you. You'll get an awareness. And also don't try and look at the rightness and the wrongness of that choice. Don't try and analyze it, because that's not going to create. You have to be willing to trust your gut instincts. You have to be willing to literally follow that lightness and heaviness. Your body is going to give you information. Also, it's like, your body gives you information without any filters of any judgment. So the more in communion you are with your body, the more present you are in your body, the more you'll start receiving those signs. Okay. So yeah. And so every time I choose something for myself, I don't really know what the choice will create for me. I have no clue. All I know is it's just calling out to me. So I just follow an energy because it's something is calling out to me. It's just pinging in my world. And I just know I have to choose it. And I also ask myself, am I choosing it because others are choosing it, or this is what's sounding like fun for me? So you can be asked to be more present and say, okay, what exactly is going on? Who does it belong to? Is this what I truly want? And sometimes it'll show up so dynamically. Like there was this business mentorship call by Gary Dane and Simon, and it was an expensive call. And I was like, okay, this call sounds so interesting, and I wonder what this call is all about, and should I buy it or no, or what should I do? Because I missed the time when the call was going on. I missed buying it that time. But later on, once it was in the shop, it just kept pinging me. And I was like, there's something about this call. But I was like, will it even create for me? So I said, universe, will this call contribute to me? Give me a sign. Sometimes you can ask the universe for signs, right? And I kid you not, in less than a minute, there was a message on the JCF group from Simon. Hey guys, we are planning to make this a prerequisite for the next renewal. And I was like, wow, that was fast, and a lot of people cribbed a lot about it because it was a very expensive call. And then it's like, why should we just spend so much more extra unnecessarily? But man, that was literally the universe responding to me like in a split second like that. So be willing to start receiving the whispers of all possibilities, what every molecule in the world in the universe is talking to you. It's giving you information. Start tapping into it. But to do that, you have to get out of hiding. You have to stop hiding your being. You have to keep showing up. You have to be so present in your body to be able to pick up those signs, right? Just be present enough to pick up all the signs, all the information that the universe is giving to you. Every molecule in the universe is communicating with you.
And how can I stop my head tripping there?
It's just a choice. Is the head tripping creating anything for you? If it is, then continue. And yeah, it's just a choice. You can keep head tripping, keep choosing mediocre, keep choosing things that are not fun. Or you say, you know what? I really don't know what I'm looking for, but there is an energy to this particular thing, and I'm just choosing it. So choose from the energy of it. Choose because it's calling out to you. And also be present and ask, like, am I choosing it because others are choosing? Or it's like, sometimes you have that fear of missing out. Don't, sorry, I'm looking that direction because whoever I'm talking to shows up on that window. So just in case you're wondering why I'm not looking at the camera directly, that's what it is.
Yeah, you can put it on speaker mode. So on top there is a view mentioned. If you put it on speaker mode, whosoever is speaking, you can look at
No,
them.
that's okay. I
Okay.
prefer this way because I want to be able to see everybody
Okay.
else. So
Yeah.
yeah, I forgot what I was talking about, but you get the information, right? Follow the energy instead of trying to look for a linear way to choose something. Like, for example, a choice that you're making, something that's calling out to you is really difficult and things, but there is an energy to it and it's calling out to you big time. Just go ahead with it. Even though you might say, for example, you choose option A, and that option A might be more expensive, might be further down, and it might pay you less. But if there is an energy to it, go with that. Don't start looking at this thing that might not really create. So can you remove the spotlight, Geet? I don't
sure.
want to. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Suddenly I'm seeing my face and that's not comfortable.
Okay.
No, it's not that it's not comfortable. It's just that I want to be able to.
I got that.
Because there's a lot of information that I'm picking up from all the people that I can see, or only even their names.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
interestingly, for a call on showing up, on hearing your own voice, all of you have your cameras off, which is really interesting to notice. And then you keep wondering why I'm not creating much, why you're not creating enough, right? It's because you're not willing to show up that dynamically. So I remember there was this a Right Voice for You class that I'd attended long back. That was in say 2015, long back. Okay, and so I attended all the calls. There was up to the facilitator's level. So it was almost about 10 days of classes every day. And during the facilitator training there, so Blossom used to conduct those classes at that time. And she looked at me and she's like, how come you are here? And I was like, I was taken aback. I was like, why is she even asking me that? I said, but I've been here all while. She said, no, you're supposed to attend all the other levels before you can attend the facilitator training. I said, but I have been attending. And then she's like, wow, you have an amazing capacity to make yourself invisible. And actually, that's when it struck me. Because, all these years, I used to wonder why people don't really remember me, or they just look through me. And I used to wonder that I'm so good at remembering everybody's faces, but they don't even seem to know me, right? I didn't realize that I was the one who had that invisibility switch on all the time. It's like, when suppose you're working in a office and it's somebody's birthday and they've brought donuts or cake for everybody, and then they forget to offer you. They'll offer to everybody else, but they'll forget to offer you. And then they're inviting everybody for the party and they'll forget to include you in the invitation. And then you wonder that maybe I'm so bad, maybe nobody likes me. It's not that. You need to realize how much do you actually have your invisibility switch on, where you make yourself invisible so nobody even notices you. Now, you'll ask, why would somebody choose to make themselves invisible? It's because it's the judgments that you perceive from others and you're not comfortable dealing with it. You think all the judgments that you're perceiving are others judging you, but it's actually all those judgments are what you perceive about all those people, where those are their own judgments about themselves. And you think that those judgments belong to you, right? That others are judging you for the same things, but it's not the same. So you don't want to deal with it, so you keep yourself hidden. So when you are subduing your voice, when you're not willing to show up that dynamically, these are the things you have to keep in mind, right? So when Blossom called me on the stage, because basically earlier that Right Voice for You used to be also about coming up on the stage and singing or dancing and stuff. And I, for the life of me, couldn't do all those things. And I was like, there's no way you'll catch me singing on the stage or dancing over there, because that's not fun for me. And every time she would scan the room to invite people on the stage, I would subconsciously I was switching on that invisibility switch on, right? But that moment she caught me off guard, and then she called me, and then she said, okay, would you like to sing? I said, no. She said, I didn't think so. And then she said, okay, what would you like to say? Why don't you introduce yourself? So I did whatever. So there are certain things that you have to keep in mind when you're on stage. There are these tools that you learn in the Right Voice for You class. So I applied all those tools, and I spoke up, and I said, okay, I'm so-and-so, and this is this and stuff. And I just spoke, and I realized I was very confident. All these years, I've had such a major stage fright. But that day, when I was in front of all those people, I used all those Right Voice for You tools. I was just so confident. And you won't believe, that was the time there was a break after that. There were so many people who came up to me, they hugged me, they shook hands with me, they introduced themselves to me. And I was like, what's wrong with these people? I've been attending the class with all of them all these days, but today is when they actually saw me for who I am. And believe me, from that moment onwards is when I really started showing up. So you've no clue how many of you have your invisibility switch on, and for what? And is that even working for you? So when you perceive judgments, so you tend to go into hiding, okay? And it's similar things you end up creating even in your business. So if, say, for example, you have a product. So there is this product that you have that you spent a lot of time designing, okay? It's a beautiful product, and you've put in a lot of time and effort into creating this, and it's in beautiful colors and stuff. Because you put in so much time, you don't want those products to be judged, right? So guess what? You will make sure that the product is visible only to your close friends who will not judge you for that product, okay? And you'll keep it hidden from everybody else. And then you wonder why nobody knows about my business. Why isn't anybody buying my products? Because you don't want to receive judgments. You're not open to receiving judgments. So you'll keep your product hidden and visible only to certain people, right? Whose judgments you're willing to receive. So everywhere you've been hiding your very being, the gift of your being from this world, will you now destroy and uncreate it all?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good, bad, pot, pock, all nine shorts, boys, four ads, and beyonds. Are there some questions on the...
Acha, no. Smriti, even I am not willing to receive judgments when I price my sessions. I get very scared when all that thing happens. So what you said, I'm not willing to receive that.
Cool. Now, the best thing is about all the things that I shared is it gave you a level of awareness about what you're being and how you're creating your life so far. So now that you're aware, what different choice can you step into? You don't have to be stuck there. You're not a tree. You can move. You can choose something different. So what can I be and do different that will change this instantly? And speaking of judgments, it's like, am I speaking too fast for you guys, or is it okay? Or okay, cool. Because I thought maybe I'm just speaking nonstop. So there's so much of information, download of information that I'm getting from you guys. So speaking of judgments, people judge you to control you. Okay, just know that people will judge you to control you. And so what happens? The moment somebody is judging you, what do? You stop doing or being whatever you were doing at that time. You stop it. Okay, So if you're doing really well in your business, you immediately stop it, and because you have to prove to them that no, they're wrong. Like, and then you'll perceive the sarcasm with which somebody is praising you or saying something to you, and because it hurts you, so you stop creating that dynamic life, because you don't want somebody to talk to you like this. If you choosing greater for yourself is toppling other people's apple carts, that's their problem. Okay, just know that you're not here to please everybody, and if everybody is impelling or imposing their opinions, or maybe, or they are, what is that word for it, where they are impelling the fact that their happiness depends on the choices you're making, then that's their problem again. You're not responsible for anybody's happiness. People can choose to be happy or unhappy. It's up to them. You being something in the world, if it is creating an issue for others, seriously, it's not your problem. And how many of us actually stop ourselves? Literally stop ourselves. And we also slow ourselves down, because say your friend might have said, let's do it together. So because your friend cannot choose that time because of whatever set of limitations, self-imposed limitations, then you also stop yourself. Or if your friend goes ahead, then and you're not able to choose, then you keep judging your friend. She didn't wait for me, or he didn't wait for me. It's crazy. What exactly is required here? So now when you're talking about, so how many of you actually give yourself up for someone's judgment of you? And what is it even creating in your world? So
Yeah, I stop myself because whenever I go too fast, my family says you are being so rude and you don't have time. You don't have time for us in a dinner table, and what are you doing? Like you're just showing us that you are a superior and we are just inferior around you.
So see, what they're doing is they're just imposing and impelling their points of view on you. And those judgments are again meant to stop you, because if you're being too much, they won't be able to control you. So, and sometimes it's your own parents who do that. And you don't have to go against them, but what if you could still choose to honor yourself and make choices that will be contributing to you? Right? Now,
Especially I've realized not just friends, not just family, even the friends. So many of my close friends, they're not able to take my work. So
are they
they
even, so truth, are they even close to you? Are they, can you even call them your close friends if they're not really your well-wishers? People show you, they give you information about themselves all the time. Okay? And if you're not willing to look at what they're showing you, if you're choosing not to be aware, then you can't really blame anyone else. Right? You can choose to be aware and yet not get caught up in their manipulations. You can choose to say, okay. So the thing is, the moment you judge what your friend is showing you, the moment you're judging it to be right and wrong, you are stopping yourself. So suppose one of your friend is lying to you, or is using you, or is being a weird energy with you. If you're aware, doesn't mean you have to do anything about it. You can just choose to be aware, and you can have a lot of allowance and say, wow, interesting point of view. This person is choosing to do this or behave like this, or use me in this particular way. Now, what do you have to be and do to outcreate that? And you can also have a lot of allowance for that. You don't have to go and fight or do anything, but you don't have to give up yourself. That's one thing you have to keep in mind. The moment we look at being there for everybody else, we look at holding space for others, we look at what others like, somewhere we end up giving up ourselves. You can be any energy for anybody, but not at the cost of giving yourself up. Just know that, right? And yeah, also it's like, one of the worst feelings, especially when it comes to friends, one of the worst feelings in the world is when you realize that actually people mistook your kindness for an invitation to abuse you. So they will use you, they'll abuse you, they'll make you wrong. And all this while, all you were doing was being really, really kind to them. So how much abuse and self-abuse have you convinced yourself that you're okay with? Okay. What if, so when you're aware of other people's insecurities and their manipulations, what if you could actually outcreate that? What if you could actually create beyond that? What if that was actually an invitation for you to become sharper and smarter? So all the blind spots that you've created, that you have in place with your friends, with your people who you've decided are really close to you, and where you're not willing to see what they're actually showing you, will you now outcreate that?
Yes.
Right, from good, bad, pop, online short boys, povats, and beyonds. It's like, people, when they see you, they see the power and potency of you. But they hope and wish and pray that you don't see that about yourself. So it suits them to have you around being a limited version of yourself, because that way they don't have to step up too. But you being too much, you being unstoppable, is where now you're being an invitation for them also to be much beyond what they are, to get out of their comfort zone. And most people are not comfortable with that. But so you have a choice to keep stopping yourself, or choosing to be so much more, to be absolutely unstoppable, where they have no choice but to follow suit with you. So you have a choice to be an invitation. And I would say, what would that create for everybody?
Yeah.
You have a question?
Yes, thank you so much, Smriti. In fact, I would like to bring down everybody's attention on that whatever you said is a small, very small excerpt of the Right Voice for You class. And Smriti have conducted the Right Voice for You in multiple cities. And I'm inviting Smriti to come to Goa, where we can, kind of be with each other with the curriculum for full 3 days and get the benefit of showing up to ourselves and to the world, and find that voice which we thought that is lost.
So thanks for that reminder, Geet. I didn't even realize that it's already 45 minutes
Yes.
since we've been speaking. And I've not even started.
Yeah.
There's so much more to talk about. We might just be creating one more call on this, and we'll take this topic further. But Geet and I are inviting you guys to Goa. And it's a beautiful property, beautiful place. And also it's not very expensive, Geet. What are the charges for that? Any idea?
So on a twin sharing, it's 2,500 rupees per person, includes lunch and breakfast.
2,500 means 2,500 per head per day on a twin sharing. So it's a nice accommodation. So
Lying
it's
on the beach.
Yeah, and it's like 150 steps, 100 steps from the beach. It's literally right there. So I wonder what that will create for you guys. And it's really, really looking forward to seeing you guys. It's a 3 days of, so this Right Voice for You class is not like a regular class. There are a lot of activities to do. It's a more interactive class. There is so many different home plays and activities and things that you have to do. And in all the Right Voice for You classes that I conduct, I even include painting to it. It's just something I just like including, because it's very, very therapeutic. It's something, so many times we hold ourselves back, but when we start expressing ourselves in the form of painting, whether you know how to paint or not, nobody is there to judge you. It is your own masterpiece that you're creating for yourself. And there is a whole process also where we use a lot of Right Voice for You tools with the painting. And so we'll be introducing you to that also. And yes, we'll be painting out in the garden. It won't be, so it's not going to be a totally a class only where you're stuck in a room. It is, you are also bringing in the nature and the sea and the sand and the beach and all those and the trees. And I wonder what that will create.
And it's beginning of monsoon, so I'm asking for rain and rainbows. And how
So
does it get
exciting.
even better than this?
Also, I've hired a place which has a swimming pool. So yeah, it's like a private swimming pool. So I wonder what that would create also. So we can party there too. So also what happens with these calls, these retreats, is where the class doesn't stop. It's not like a 9 to 5 and then it stops. You are being in that energy, you continue receiving so much more than just the class. So if you'd like to,
I'd like to share, something. I had an experience with Deep in Goa, and that was one of the best experience I had. Like, it's a beautiful feeling. The resort, the food, the enjoyment, and how much we have created after that. I would say that Goa has that land that this is a different vibration altogether. It's just not wisdom. You are just dealing wisdom as well as fun. So what does it get better than this?
and
Thank you.
I thank you for sharing that, Sarita. And I can't get over the deal that he has managed to get for us, which is literally so reasonable that I mean, that's not going to be an excuse to not come.
Yeah.
So looking forward to seeing you guys. Connect with Geet or connect with me if you'd like more information about signing up for this call, the class. And meanwhile, we will be conducting another call for this because there's so much more that I need to share with you guys.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for being
All
here.
right. Yeah.
So grateful
Thank you
for
so
each one
much,
of you.
Smriti. Thank you so much.
Thank
This
you,
was
Geet.
awesome.
Thank you, Smriti.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Look
Geet.
forward. All
Thank you.
right. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.